Всем привет! Меня зовут Дмитрий Скляров, и сегодня я опять пригласил людей, которые занимаются
I'm
разработкой
Dmitry Sklarov. I've invited people who develop hardware
о том,
to tell us
что
about their
происходит
opinion
сейчас в стране
on
и
what
мире
really happens in the country and in the
в
world
области разработки электроники.
in the area of
Давайте начнем
electronical
с
development.
Николая.
Let's begin with
Расскажи,
Nikolai.
пожалуйста, чем ты вообще занимаешься?
Tell
Просто
me
чтобы
what you
представиться.
do, just to introduce yourself.
Весь мой последний путь за
My
последние
recent path
лет это в
in
основном
recent several years, mostly
колонки,
speakers
Linux,
with embedded Linux.
мои последние три.
Well, these are my last 3 years.
Яндекс беспилотники,
Previously, I've been Yandex driverless,
такая некая
some
топовая электроника с точки зрения, наверное,
top electronics from the point of view of
домашний и
home electronics and industrial electronics and
высокие скорости передач. Ну вот это.
high speeds of data transfer and things like that. Maxim, tell me about yourself.
Собственно, я тут второй раз.
Well, it's the second time I'm here. Last time I've been telling you that embedded Linux without specifications, development related with operating systems on the hardware. I will say the same thing, and I can add to this because we're speaking about work. I also worked with driverless cars, and maybe this is enough to introduce myself. And Alexander? Hello. Mostly I've been working in SMB, startups, and small companies, different areas.
БПЛА, собственно, системы управления.
Control systems, drones, industrial automation. I've been working both on the hardware and software.
Работал с микроконтроллерами.
Also, I've been working with microcontrollers, embedded Linux. Also, a little bit I did work.
Ну вот, у нас говорят, что мы собираемся
We
импортировать.
hear that we would like to import, substitute everything. But then I have a question. Do we have people for this? Do we have enough specialists to develop hardware of the global level?
Так, вопрос.
Давай,
Ну, я...
давай с Максима.
Let's begin with Maxim.
На самом-то деле, спойлер состоит
Honestly
что
speaking,
кадров у нас очень
the
много.
spoiler is that we do have a lot of specialists and we have the exceeding amount of those. And maybe people say that why such small salaries in the industry? Because we don't need so many specialists as we have. But another question is that we don't need quantity, we need quality.
Специфичные компетенции.
We need some specific competencies, especially for work in our market and especially in our realities.
С ними как раз-таки проблема.
And it is a problem to find them. The first thing that you have to do, especially if you want to substitute, you need a full cycle. You need a full cycle of production if you want to get ahead of those guys and do something normally. The full cycle is needed not on some specific things. We need to look at the global market. We don't need to look at our own market because we're not going to be satisfying our own demand. We don't have enough of demand to build factories of a full cycle in Russia. Well, this is the situation. But yes, we do have enough of specialists. But the question about the quality and not the quantity. Sasha?
У нас, насколько я знаю, основным заказчиком
As I know, our main client, or one of the main clients, is
это оборонная промышленность. Вот. А там, кстати,
defense industry for electronic devices. And unfortunately, to my point of view, and I have a lot of friends from this industry, they're very good from the organization of the full labor organization, the low efficiency. They have low efficiency, and the quality of specialists suffers because people work there many years. They don't develop, they don't grow professionally.
государственные предприятия, то есть
And similar state-based facilities, big facilities, they have similar problems with it. And the second thing,
я имею некоторое отношение
I
к сфере
do have a certain relation to the educational industry, and I see that students don't want to get involved
аппаратной.
in a hardware development.
Они больше гонятся за какими-то
They more are running after
историями.
new software stories.
Ну да, на JavaScript писать проще, чем разработать.
It's much easier to write in a JavaScript than program electronic device. On the other side, there are some areas which are
Аппаратная разработка.
reborn interest to hardware development, like drones. And that's what attracted many people because people like these quadrocopters, drones to fly, to film. It's beautiful and interesting, and possibly
увеличить количество таких проектов.
if you will increase number of those projects, then perhaps there will be even more developers for them.
Начну с
Yes, perhaps I will begin with the end about JavaScript. Recently, I've been working a lot and heard a lot of opinions that perhaps everything is finished
электронщиков, что здесь все закончилось.
and that no more electronic developers. And right now we need to go to JavaScript because it's going to be very difficult in this area. Well, there is such an opinion. It's understandable why. Do I share it or maybe I don't share it? No, I don't share it. But about the people, it's very difficult for me to speak.
Государственное что-то я вижу,
But something state, public,
делается в
I
компании.
see what is being done within companies.
Полный цикл я бы даже вообще говорить
I wouldn't even speak about the full cycle production.
реализуемо в ближайшее время.
This is impossible in the nearest future at all, so I don't believe it. The full cycle for something simple, maybe. Maybe. Some diodes, field transistors, but something more complicated and even basically, well, something is available. But it's not sufficient quantitatively, even if we are going to use it.
Уровень не очень высок.
The level of quality is not very high. Okay, we don't have this quantity. But if tomorrow we will need tens of thousands of some CPUs, we will not be able to buy them even if we have something. As for the people, specialists,
Вопрос, правда, их
it's a complicated question. Yes, we do have a lot of them. Yes, we do have new people coming to us who, well, not all of them are
профессионалы, может быть,
high-level professionals.
кажется, что да, здесь нельзя
So
брать,
I think that we cannot take by just quantity.
а
We do need quality.
сорян, но далеко не все шарят, к
But
сожалению.
those people, these people, they not all they know about, hardware development. So I do have certain doubts what is going to happen in the future. We do need
Проблему не
to solve the problem,
учением, не вот этой там
not with training, not to universities, but something additional should be developed. We need to develop these specialists by
личным опытом,
some personal experience sharing,
таким, ну,
some personal example, and maybe something more addressed, some targeted help. You cannot take it by masses.
Добавить, что на самом
And
деле,
I would like to add to this that previously the learning system was built in the Institute of Mentorship. There was a normal practical experience. And right now, practical internship is just for the sake of the check mark. And especially students are being sent to the company.
просто закрывают глаза, все прощают.
And basically, everything is being forgiven. They don't do anything. They don't receive anything. So the problem is that it's a very serious problem. People don't have
Это да.
practical experience, and that's it.
Полного
That's it.
цикла, ну,
And as for the full cycle,
я бы вообще о них не говорил, поскольку
I
слишком
wouldn't speak about it because it's very complicated devices for us. But let's speak about some textulite compound materials. Yes, we do have it. It's only for military sector. It's not being produced for the non-military sector. Yes, we can do at least our own textulite,
истории, что
composite material.
кажется,
You know the story that right now we see more
Китай, ну, то есть, заказ,
orders sent to China, and big volumes
и теперь
have been collected by the military industry. And right now, small orders, these small wholesale and small retail volumes, they go to China.
просто посредники, прокси.
So we just have mediators, proxies.
Начинать с этого,
So maybe we can start with these, making those composite materials.
Мне кажется, у меня просто друзья работают на
Well, I have a lot of friends working in those companies, and I know that
просто потому
there's
что
a lot of
этой отрасли
bad quality reject products. For the space industry, it's a reject product. But for civil people, for civil technologies, even these rejects would be a good quality product.
дали возможность,
Because if they would give a possibility, for example, for companies
взаимодействовать, это
to work together with civil organizations, then it would be a good push for the industry. Possibly yes. Possibly yes. We've started speaking about people,
все-таки, ну вот, кажется, что нужно что-то делать.
but it seems that something is to be done. We should develop people, should train them.
Может
We
быть,
should search.
мне
Maybe
так, что отрасль,
for me, it
не
looks
очень
like
красиво выглядит
the
для
industry doesn't look beautiful
студентов, потому что, ну а что
for
они?
students.
JS, действительно,
Yes, of course, there is
там
JS,
такое
but
понятное,
there is something more understandable. There's ML.
флагу
well, the ML boom have passed a couple of years ago.
А сейчас там, ну,
DevOps.
что-то еще the next big
What
thing.
else?
Мне кажется,
What is the next big thing?
Ну, DevOps.
Sanya wants to, well, DevOps. Just recently I said, well, I'm not a programmer, but I'm DevOps.
И поэтому он не
Окей,
будет
это что-то
делать.
еще более такая техническая
But
отрасль.
there's another in the mechanical industry I'm speaking about.
Ну, вот что может за
What
заставить
else could
людей
trigger a person
в
or a
электронике?
student to go into microelectronics as an industry? I don't see anything
Нужно показывать, что
to attract people, but we have to show that
здесь основа всего.
it's very cool here, it's a foundation of everything, and you can do something here. Yes, thanks to companies,
которые
thanks to
начинают,
big companies
ну, мы все знаем эти
start, and we know these measures and driverless cars and remotely controlled speakers and servers. Yes, we start producing those things, and perhaps this will be a stimulus for the inflow of new people in the industry. But we need to increase these things even afterwards. Maybe Alexander can add something to you. Well, it's very hard to say something like that in the beginning. Yes, we do need interesting projects.
В малом бизнесе
And somehow I think that would be a nice thing to develop those things in a small business, create conditions for development of small, medium companies involved in hardware development
ну и как
in some form,
зарплаты, само собой, ты вот
and salaries. For example, you've been saying that you have very low salaries for the electronic component specialists. Yes, I can say that there are cases, and I recommend students and even interns are happy to work. For example, people are asking to help to Lisa Alert in the electronic part.
Что-то можно сделать.
So I think something can be done. We just have to try it. Lisa Alert is supported by some commercial company who supports them.
немного поддерживает.
Well, they have a lot of charity support. But how the electronics can be applied in Lisa Alert? They actively use drones. They manufacture their own drones, and they have specific engineering team.
Они не просто свои дроны
And in
делают,
principle, they're not just making their drones. They organize together with my university. They travel different universities, helping them.
соревнования.
They do the contest, and this is popularization of this direction. They just invest in attracting the interest of people to this area. Yes, and as I think, they do it pretty good. They do it right. And I hear from people who are interested not in commercial companies, not to go work for Yandex, but I hear, well, we would like to go into the same Lisa Alert for the food, and we want to design it to make it fly. Just to make it fly, it's beautiful. We want to make it fly. I didn't see too many of those people. Where do you find them? Show me them.
Смотреть шире, может, что-нибудь найдется.
You should look wider. Maybe you'll find somebody.
на текущий драйвер,
Yeah,
но всё-таки
drones, they look like a current driver, but everything. Well, I did hear a lot of things about young people
но
that will. There are drones. It's an interesting direction.
единственным драйвером
Now it's the only driver in this
может
area.
быть этого, ну,
Maybe it's not enough. It's not a sufficient one. Well, speaking about drones, we understand that 5 years ago, anybody could fly anywhere and nothing would happen to you. But right now, it's not like that. Right now, if you want to legally put a drone in the air, it's a big problem. You'll get penalized. It's not an electronic problem, but if we will continue stop the possibility of flying for regular citizens like it is being done in our country right now, what do you think?
С одной стороны,
I agree. On one side, I agree. As a person who was directly involved in competitions, drone competitions, on one side, that's true.
как
But on the other side,
строгость закона компенсируется
the
необязательно.
strictness of the law is compensated by non-mandatoriness of their execution, and we did have some flights even under limitations, and nobody worried about them, specifically, especially from law enforcement agencies.
Помимо этого, как
But in
бы,
addition to that,
что если юрлицо
there is a
организует
practice. If legal entity will organize
испытательные полеты, да,
some
например,
test flights, for example,
обычно это как бы ну, обговаривается.
usually
Соответственно, на
it has been discussed that the responsibility is undertaken by the pilot in his own hands. This is as for the tests. As for the work with the group or mass application of the drones,
после там
recently after the recent events, we have not been deeply involved into it, but just recently before it,
Тяжелые аппараты,
we did have really heavy drones flying by groups and doing some work, and we didn't see any problems
но в связи с
with
последними
them.
событиями, конечно,
And due to recent events, of course, the situation has changed.
Ну, то есть состояние неопределенности все-таки
So the uncertainty is there.
привлекает студентов.
We try to attract students because drones are cool, but there's a probability that in 5 years it will be very dangerous to fly or it's going to be very difficult. Well, you always fight with regulators, that's true. We always have, and it doesn't matter whatever you do in electronics with high level of probability. If you want to do something for the civil market, for citizens market, you will have to fight for it and you will have to try to survive. It sounds very sad because you feel bad, you're pressed, and you try to survive in addition to everything. Well, you can also remember that Russia is a big country, there's a lot of space, you can go to a remote region where nobody will worry about it, where there won't be any problems, not Moscow region, but maybe in further away. And in principle, it's doubtful that somebody will try to catch you, even if you will do some tests. Because everybody understands everything. People are understanding beings, and very often there are good people working there, and you can find agreement with any one of them. But this is not a total solution, and basically speaking, it shouldn't be like that. Basically speaking,
Получше должно быть с регуляцией.
it should be much better with regulation. That's true. I'm speaking, the bolts should not be too tight. Well, I'm speaking about something else. The tests in the Tundra, well, I don't see any problems. There's no body, no infrastructure, which can interfere improperly with you. But if you want to deliver hostage by drones, it's not going to be that simple. So this question is not really well thought. So if we're going to develop drones, we don't know what's going to be the consequence. Well, the delivery in city conditions and mass flights in city conditions, it's a remote story.
законодательство, а просто
Not because of legislation, but because of technologies. They are not ready. Reliability is not ready.
части, так и программные.
Hardware and software have not achieved the point after which this all can be launched.
С беспилотными автомобилями, как известно,
And speaking about driverless cars, we also do have a lot of problems with them. Well, cars are on the same level with people, but drones should not be on the same level. But yes, they can. Yes, they can. And they can cross over even also in the vertical space,
помимо горизонтального.
in the vertical dimension, in addition to horizontal one. Yeah.
Также, да, имущество могут повредить.
And the property,
Лететь туда, где их никто не ждал,
you can go to the property where you have not been expected,
куда машина не заедет. В общем, там много.
where the machine will not be able to go. There's a lot of interesting things. Well, we went into the area of drones. Let's go back to electronics. We've heard a combination of words, full cycle. Can you disclose me what this full cycle includes? I do have some perception that before iPhone will come into my hands, I have to design it, I have to manufacture every micro scheme inside of it, and it also has to be designed. I have to check high frequency track because my device will be communicating wirelessly to other devices and may destroy them. We have to assemble all of it. I have to learn to design together. I need to find the production line where everything is going to be produced, manufactured, packaged, etc. You perhaps have more information. What is this animal called full cycle? Can you share with us? Well, I'm going to tell you because I'm very close to similar products,
Consumer electronics и
customer electronics.
ты прав, все.
Yes, you are right. Everything is like that. We do need CPUs. We do need memory stacks. But coming back a little bit, we need even motherboards which cannot be manufactured in our country according to new requirements of high precision. It's called HDDI motherboards with multi-layers, with thin transitions, thin tracks, and all of this has been ordered outside of our country. And this is basic. This is something from which we have to start. Basically, like build root can be downloaded. This is not a problem. Some other software products which are needed in order to manufacture this device, yes, they also can be taken, but
технологии, чтобы сделать
taking technologies to make soundboards,
Недавно статья была,
it's problematic. There was an article in Hard about CPUs
утрируя, мы в одно
that, yes, basically speaking,
приемное гнездо высыпем
in
песок, а
one joint you put sand, and
у нас
wholesale from the other side you have CPUs dropping out.
да, это
It's a good quote.
такое представление,
Like silicon, this perception that sand to silicon, sand to chip, for those who don't understand anything in this area, basically speaking, we need a lot of things for this in order to make a production line. For 10 nanometers, for example, it's not enough to get this sand. You need the culture of production. We need clean rooms. We need chemical industry. Even the chemical industry, we don't have normal chemical industry. Previously, I'm a chemist.
немножко имею
And I do have a vision of this industry, and we don't even have normal manufacturing of this clean chemistry for manufacturing of CPUs.
что нам нужно. Ну,
What's next? What else do we need?
радиотракт,
Radio tracts. Yes. In Russia, traditionally, we do have specialists in radio tracts, and it's understandable that
специфика у нас существует еще там.
we do have these specifics from past military, super high band. We used to have a person
Да, это мы
in ultra high band transmissions. Yes, maybe we can do that, but afterwards, production of all of this.
связан с массовым
If I'm connected to mass production, I do see what can be done in Russia.
ну, нужны компоненты.
It's not enough that we need components, but
Ну, все в основном
components they also brought from outside. Yes, we can bring them, but salaries, for some reason, it is much more expensive to manufacture it here, even though China has grown significantly from the point of view of their salaries to these people. But once again,
в России
for better money in Russia, we receive much worse production.
yield rate хуже. Ну, то
The
есть
yield rate is much worse, and a big output of bad quality devices.
многие
And
компании
I know many companies, they are thinking about manufacturing in Russia, but
никто так и не дошел до того, чтобы реально
nobody have reached
девайсы, ну,
mass production of those devices,
технологичные
high-tech devices in this country.
делают это.
The maximum what can be done here is a retail production of small volumes.
Клеить шильдик, что сделано в России.
And yeah, they can apply this label that, well, it's made in Russia, but by fact, it's not like that. It's not true. And I do hope that something will be transported here, maybe not for complicated device, relatively speaking, relatively complicated devices where there is one CPU, but it's doubtful. It is doubtful. Maybe for something simpler, like out of consumer electronics, maybe we would be able to do that. Yes.
Полный цикл.
And speaking about the full cycle, coming back to full cycle,
Там корпус.
in the end run,
Корпус.
even the body for the device needs to have a body, and to make a shell, make a body, it's a big problem in Russia.
Сделать некие тестовые партии.
You can make some test batches,
И получится красиво. Ну,
and it will look beautiful, it will look normal. Okay, let's do it, but very often I face this situation. You can make one piece, 10 pieces, 100 pieces, very expensive, but mass production,
пластик лить, даже
even, molded plastic,
гораздо там
in China, they do it much better and cheaper, and most importantly, not better, but a repetitive quality.
с этим, ну,
We face this problem all the time. We've tried to do something here, but
не очень получается, да.
it doesn't work. It's much simpler to go and do it there, even though it looks like it's just a body, just a piece of melted plastic. But unfortunately, it will stop being an option outside of the game, because there were many companies that were building their business and their contacts with Chinese and Taiwan manufacturers. And right now, some of these contacts are inaccessible, which means it's not they cannot manufacture what they've been manufacturing for us. It's just another thing.
Очень много проблем. Ну,
Yes, there's a lot of problems.
Ну, у нас болит все.
You know, we are completely in pain. We don't have a point which is not in pain. So basically speaking, we say that there is problem everywhere. But you know, we need to start with materials, simply materials and simply composite materials like textilite, prepregs, simple composite materials for radio electronics and the civil market. Plus minus mass production, that would be good as well. But generally speaking, you know, when you want to speak about the full cycle, it's a complicated question because there are components from which some things are manufactured. And we as hardware people, we want all components to be manufactured here. It's a utopia in the idea, but yes, we want it. We want it. And basically speaking, the full cycle, if we are making composite materials, full cycle means that at the input we have a certain product, a raw material coming at the input, non-processed raw material that was delivered from whatever, from the well. And then factory gave something, produced something that we can use, and then maybe along the production life, some new things is given born, and we can use it as one of our device, as one of our constructions. So we don't even have this. Sometimes it is present and there is a small number of points where it is available, but it happens so seldomly, so sometimes it's an exception. I think Sasha may add something to this. Well, generally speaking, I can say that this is a utopia. Is there countries which have realized full cycle for production and accessibly, commercially accessible parts in the civil sector? And I think only the China can do it. Only China. Only China can do it. But China doesn't have lithography. Yes, it just comes to the market. But the best global lithography is in Holland. In SMIC,
история там
it's an interesting story.
не очень законно было сделано, да, но
Everything was done not completely transparently and legally with big deficiencies, but because
этим, то я думаю, что
they own this, I think
списывать только ради того, чтобы иметь
they can write it off just in case with the purpose to have this production line. And everything else, yes. Okay, we have microchips, we have the body, we have the motherboards, and we have specialists, which is most important. I've been speaking to many people,
инженерами и
to many Chinese engineers, and truthfully speaking, they know, they are very good, they are well educated, they have a super ultra
топовые. У них программисты, окей.
bandwidth topologies, they have programmers, and they have everything, they have everybody. Sometimes it might look
Да,
a little bit raw. Sometimes it does, but nevertheless, they are growing and they are developing because they have certain educational programs, state programs for this. We also need to start. Well, China was lucky. Everybody invested in China when everybody thought that you may not have production in your country, and everybody have invested into China, and it gave them this victory. But I think nobody will repeat this error with Russia.
Ну да, у нас...
Yes. Yes.
Да, у нас в разы меньше.
Yes, we have much lesser amounts, much lesser amounts. We have good education, relatively speaking. I also have heard a version about China, why Apple phones are manufactured in China, because China owns natural resources for some items which are necessary for semiconductors production, and they have prohibition for the raw material export. They cannot transport it into America and manufacture microscheme. You can manufacture this microscheme in China. If you make the microscheme in China, why everything else wouldn't be done in China? So they have also this way of pressurizing. And they are not taking care about environment. They didn't take care about environment previously. I don't know right now. Right now it becomes better. Right now in Beijing, the air is cleaner and clearer. 10 years ago, I've been there. I couldn't see the sun. It was just a yellow spot somewhere in the sky in a cloudless day in December. Also, we've mentioned about the state policy in China that has permitted to do something like that. What our state can do in order to support civil electronics and all other areas, and how many years, according to your assessment, this support will become into something so that we would become not even global leaders, but at least competitive. At least we could have one product which at least has mass production on a global scale. because when we have compared production of Yoda phones, and the second version of Yoda phone was manufactured, and the third one they didn't do because everything was purchased by China. And they said that Yotta phone success will not be repeated by making these double screen apparatus, but in two models. They've manufactured 70,000 devices, and Apple, during the same amount, produced 7 to 10 million devices. So the scales are incomparable. So what should be done by our country to improve electronics, and how much time will it take? Well, about China, I would like to add that right now Russian companies do hope to pull something here and do something here, like body production. Well, at least the body production, not just body, melted plastic. And China does not allow us to buy components. They give us only in assembly. They are against giving new technologies by parts. You cannot buy a component of a leader with high level of probability. They will not allow you to do that. And we do face these problems. I do hear it from colleagues. And as for what can be done to improve something in our country, well, we should look at the global market. Escape from global market. We just don't have this demand. We just cannot manufacture something modern by selling it on our own market. It's not realistic. It's impossible. I think this is impossible at all. And from the fact that what Russia can do right now, well, many people say, many people heard that gallium arsenide chargers, well, this is a gallium nitride. Gallium nitride. Yeah, gallium nitride. Well, doesn't matter. Specifics. I have this one at home. Well, the things, there's nothing too complicated about it. It's an old technology. Honestly, there is nothing very complicated here that we cannot do ourselves. We can manufacture it. But what's funny, nobody has good manufacturing facility here. This is an equal race. Everybody begin equally. Nobody has a super duper modern production. There is no 20-year behind like in CPUs. So this is not so difficult like in the CPU. Well, it's very simple to manufacture it, and it's very simple to go to the global market. And we've been discussing, electronic guys here, that if this would be permitted for us to manufacture at least GaN transistors and export them, then in principle this could give us some influx of investments in the country, theoretically speaking. So we need to start from small things. We don't have to race for big things. It will give us competitiveness in how many years? Well, at least we shouldn't burn it, at least we shouldn't go bankrupt. Well, we should popularize this industry. We must show that it's not worse than, well, speaking about IT specialists and other industries, we should show that it's not worse than software development. Maybe it's even more interesting, etc. Plus, I think that we should begin. We need to develop something in new areas like drones, driverless cars, smart speakers. This is also not an old and outdated division. Also, driverless cars, where everybody are in equal condition, so we can get ahead. And we also should start with expensive devices, and then from them we will have a certain culture of production organization, which can be descaled to consumer things. Something like that. Yes, if there is a certain driver of development, some big player, then of course it's very easy to pull small ones behind it. Yes, I do share this opinion. Yes, I do also think that due to the factor of deficiency of people in our country and small market, it's very difficult to manufacture something that will work on this market. In other words, we need to invest a lot. And without fast return of investments, just simple investments in the industry will not return tomorrow. This business doesn't work like that in our country. We want to do it faster. So then perhaps you are right that guns
относительно простая.
gun transistors. It's a very simple thing, relatively speaking, and it can be profitable. Gun transistors can be manufactured in billions, and everybody needs them.
Вы могли пока что влезть в эту
Maybe we could go into this race because this race is just starting at the same time. At the same time,
это
it looks, this production doesn't look like very complicated. Therefore, we should start with those point-to-point projects because yes, investing once again into this roadmap for the nearest 10 years, well, I don't really,
сроки, ну, наверное,
well, speaking about
строить
deadlines,
такие реальные планы, ну, то есть, да, давайте сделаем ганы, давайте сделаем там
okay,
еще
let's do this gun transistors. So let's do some regular FET transistors.
там пассивку кварцы. Ну,
Maybe some passive, like quartz. Can we manufacture quartz devices? Yes, it's not likely that we can do it cheap enough, but maybe with these devices, we can go to this market and take a space, take a certain space and get certain profit from this. And then afterwards, we can move CPUs. Well, China was doing the same way.
не стоит
China was doing the same way. We shouldn't begin
завоевать все сразу.
by capturing all the markets simultaneously. Let's set 3 goals, and after achieving them, move to other goals.
Представляю,
Deadlines, I can't even imagine what deadlines we should speak about. In the current situation,
в виде векторе
in the current vector of development, it seems that
никогда.
almost never
Ну, глобальный рынок, нужен глобальный рынок.
Да,
Без
we
глобального
need global market. Without global market, we're nobody.
Внутрь, ну, никогда
Selling on the internal market, well, it will never be possible.
никогда. Но у нас есть там другие
Never.
рынки, не
Yes, we do have other markets. It's not necessary to sell it to the United States. There are other countries, India, for example, and they have a lot of people in India, and each one of them needs a charger for mobile phone. That's understandable. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time left, but what I took out of your recent statements
Нужно прежде всего
is that we need, first of all, to increase attractiveness of our products. We can manufacture, but before we will learn to sell it, we have no chances.
нельзя ждать быстрой отдачи,
You
потому
cannot wait for quick feedback. It will take years. In 1 year, you cannot earn money for production of electronic components. And in principle, everything's okay with the brains, but not good with management.
тогда я могу
То, что привлекательность отрасли для специалистов.
And industry attractiveness for the specialists. Yes, we need to increase the attractiveness of the industry for the specialists. Well, I can say the old statement, do what you have to do and be whatever should be. And maybe our electronic industry will come out of the situation in which it's right now. Thank you very much for being with us today. I hope we're going to meet you in the future. Thank you. Thank you.